The gang rape of a 17-year-old girl in Hyderabad has once again put the spotlight back on India's juvenile justice system. 6 people have been arrested, an 18-year-old and 5 minors. The case has triggered outrage and anger that the 5 accused will get away with the crime by virtue of being minors, because the law in India does not allow those under the age of 18 to be awarded the death penalty or life imprisonment without the possibility of release. So, how does India's juvenile justice system work? When can a child be tried as an adult? And why do several experts say that to do so is deeply problematic? Let me explain. Under the Juvenile Justice Act, a child is defined as someone under the age of 18. A person is tried as a child or as an adult based on their age on the date of the offence. So, can the 5 accused minors in the Hyderabad gang rape case be tried as adults? The short answer is yes, but there are some conditions. In 2015, Parliament passed a law whereby children between the ages of 16 and 18 can be tried as adults if they've been accused of committing a heinous offence. So, what is a heinous offence? As per law, it includes crimes like rape and murder, but it also includes offences like kidnapping, burglary, arson, cheating, and much more. Basically, any offence where the minimum punishment is 7 years imprisonment or more. So, these minors in Hyderabad are accused of committing a heinous crime like gang rape. However, it is the Juvenile Justice Board that will eventually decide whether these minors, who are all between the ages of 16 and 18, will be tried as adults. Every state in India, in fact, every district has a Juvenile Justice Board. The whole procedure is strictly confidential. The board looks at 3 things to determine whether a child should be tried as an adult. 1. Whether the child has the mental and physical capacity to commit such an offence. 2. Whether the child understands the consequences of committing the offence. And 3. The circumstances in which the offence was committed. All boards have different ways of taking this decision, but all juvenile justice boards will have to refer the minor to a psychiatrist who will report whether the minor has the capacity to commit or not commit such a crime. Then there is the social investigation report. Many questions are asked as part of this report, including what are the conditions of the minor's home? How is the relationship between the parents? How is the relationship between the minor and the parents? Is the minor a victim of abuse? Does the minor use alcohol or drugs, etc.? The Juvenile Justice Board will also speak to the minor, their friends, family, neighbors to understand their social circumstances. If the board decides that a child can be tried as an adult, then the case is then transferred to a children's court where the maximum punishment can be more than 3 years. But the death sentence cannot be given. There is at least one case in 2019 when a Hyderabad court sentenced a minor to life imprisonment in a rape case. However, the law is clear. Juveniles cannot be given life imprisonment without the possibility of release. The idea behind the juvenile justice system is that it's reformative and rehabilitative, meaning that children who are in conflict with the law can be reformed and rehabilitated back into society. The system is not retributive, that is, to inflict punishment on someone as vengeance for a wrong or criminal act. Like I mentioned earlier, the Juvenile Justice Act was amended in 2015 after the Nirbhaya case, when a young woman was brutally assaulted and gang raped in a moving bus in Delhi in 2012. The law was amended because one of the offenders was 17 and a half at the time of the crime. His release after 3 years at a correctional facility led to a public uproar with demands for harsher punishments in the juvenile law. Until then, children between the ages of 16 and 18 could not be tried as adults. They could not be detained at a special home for more than 3 years. Despite the 2015 amendment, there are many who still advocate for harsher punishments, arguing that the fact that a juvenile cannot be given the death sentence or life imprisonment shows that the juvenile justice system is lax. But on the other hand, child rights activists and experts point out that even the amended law is flawed, pointing out that trying children as adults is deeply problematic. Here's why. 1. The assessment to determine whether a child can be tried as an adult is arbitrary. Now, although the Juvenile Justice Board can take the help of a psychiatrist, many experts point out that there are no scientific tools to truly gauge a child's maturity. There is always an element of subjectivity. Moreover, the board can come under pressure of public opinion or protests. A board member can also be bribed or influenced to determine whether a child should be tried as an adult. 2. Science tells us that most people don't attain maturity until the age of 25. Now, although a 16-year-old may look like a 19-year-old, studies by neuroscientists have found that the human brain isn't fully developed until the age of 25. This means that the part of the brain which curbs impulsive or reckless behavior isn't fully developed. So, adolescents aren't necessarily capable of making good rational decisions. So, this is why many child rights experts advocate a juvenile justice system so that children are treated differently than adults because they are vulnerable and are deserving of protection. 3. Treating juveniles as adults is not a deterrent against heinous crimes. In fact, a study in New York found that children who were treated as adult criminals were rearrested faster, more often, and for more serious crimes, and more often returned to prison. It's not only harder for children to break the cycle of crime, but it also puts society at higher risk. Let me just add here that not all child rights activists agree with this assessment. In fact, a few told me that they believe that the minors in the Jubilee Hills gang rape case should be tried as adults because accountability and responsibility is fixed for their behavior. Some pointed out that several minors take care of their homes, work for a living, etc. And therefore, the argument that the human brain isn't fully developed shouldn't be used to absolve them of a sexual crime. One pointed out that according to the police that this was a planned act and therefore the punishment should be according to the severity of the crime. To prevent crimes like the Hyderabad gang rape case, we also need to look at the root causes. Whether it's poverty or alcoholism or drug abuse among parents, or parental indifference, or domestic violence, etc. We also need to teach our children about consent and respecting the choice of others. We've been bringing you Let Me Explain every week for 6 months now. If you value our work, do support us by becoming a member of the News Minute. I also just want to quickly remind you that the News Minute has launched 2 new YouTube channels, the News Minute Malayalam and the News Minute Tamil. Go and check it out and subscribe to these channels. And as always, if you've liked this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your friends.